Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be discussing one of my favorite rom-coms, Pretty Woman. Pretty Woman is a 1990 romantic comedy directed by Gary Marshall and starring Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. This is a classic rom-com that has so many influences on pop culture today, and it's also one of my favorites. I was actually able to see Pretty Woman the musical with my mom a few years ago, and when we showed up, I got the program and I looked at who was playing all the characters, and I looked and the main man, Edward, was played by Adam Pascal from Rent, and I was so excited, and nobody else knew who the fuck he was, but I was so excited, and he was really good in it. His voice, impeccable. Before we get into the plot of the movie, I'm going to give you an overview of the main characters. So our leading man is Edward. He's this big businessman. He has a bad history with relationships. He has an ex-wife and an ex-girlfriend that we learn about. And Edward is incredibly rich as he is the CEO of a liquidation company, which basically means that he buys companies that are not doing well and sells their parts off for profit. So he is, unfortunately, a major capitalist. Next up, we have our female lead, Vivian. She's bright and fun and happy and funny, and she is currently working as a sex worker on the streets of Los Angeles. And Vivian's co-worker slash best friend slash roommate is named Kit. She's fun, she's go with the flow, she's relaxed, but she also can be irresponsible sometimes. Then we have Ed's co-worker, his lawyer, whose name is Phil, and he is kind of a douchebag. He's a womanizer, he's definitely misogynistic, he's just an asshole all around. He's also very skeezy and money obsessed. And the final main character I want to introduce is Barney. He's the hotel doorman, and he starts off a little rough and hostile towards Vivian, but by the end of the movie you see that he's really sweet and sensitive inside, and he does care. So now let's get into the plot of the movie. So the movie starts with a shot of someone doing close-up magic, which is the best way for a movie to start. Then the audience is introduced to Edward at a business party and introduced to Vivian when she's confronting Kit about taking their rent money. So we're introduced to each character separately, and then we see them meet each other when Edward is driving his lawyer's car around and needs someone to give him directions, and he asks Vivian. And so Vivian gets in the car with Edward and gives him directions to his hotel. And so Edward takes Vivian up to his hotel room with her, and there's so much chemistry between the two of them, and Edward asks Vivian to stay the night, and Vivian's like, that's gonna cost you some. So Vivian says she charges $100 per hour, and then to stay the whole night she only asks for $300, which is the equivalent of 3 hours. Vivian, please stop selling yourself short. This man can afford it. Ask for $1,000. And here we also learn that one rule that she has is that she does not kiss clients on the mouth, which will become important later. So we catch up with them the next morning. We learn that Vivian was wearing a blonde wig this whole time and actually has long, curly, red hair. Also, the hotel that Edward is staying in is insane. It's so big, there's so much furniture, there's no way you need all of that. We see Vivian taking her time in the morning, taking a nice bubble bath in the bathtub and singing along out loud to Kiss by Prince. And while this is happening, Edward gets a call from his lawyer Phil, and they have some kind of business thing going on this week, and he needs someone to bring as a date. So Edward decides to ask Vivian to stay with him for the entire week and be his date to these business dealings. And again, we learned previously that her rate is $100 an hour, and then she charged $300 for the night. Now, $100 an hour for 24 hours a day, 6 days a week, because it was a 6-day thing, would be $14,400. And Vivian only asks this man for $3,000. Stop selling yourself short. But anyways, now that she has agreed to stay the week, Edward gives her his credit card and says, buy something classy for our dinner. And she goes out to Rodeo Drive and enters this upscale store, and she gets kicked out because she's wearing normal clothes and not whatever the fucking shit they sell in that store is. Vivian returns to the hotel where she has a run-in with the hotel manager. This hotel manager, his name is Barney, as I said before, and he's being kind of weird with Vivian because, like, the hotel doesn't want its clients to bring sex workers over, but because Edward is so rich, he's like, we'll look past it, but I'm gonna call you his niece. So the whole time Barney basically calls Vivian Edward's niece, which is interesting. Despite that interesting choice from Barney, he does help Vivian find appropriate clothing for the dinner that they are going to that night. And so with this new clothing, Edward brings Vivian to a business dinner. There's some business talk. And with this, Edward and Vivian go to this business dinner together, and basically Edward's trying to buy this person and his son's, like, company from them to sell off for parts, and they don't want to do that, obviously. And the dinner doesn't go great, so when they get back, Edward seems a little bit upset, and he, like, leaves to unwind. And eventually we see Vivian go out to try to find him, and she finds him down in the hotel, like, lobby or one of the, like, ballrooms that some big hotels have, playing the piano. And this scene is so sexy. There's so much chemistry between them. It's, like, genuinely one of the best, like, sexy scenes I've seen in a film. The next day, Edward wants Vivian to get more clothes for other events that they're going to throughout the week, and Vivian finally tells him that the people in the stores didn't treat her nicely. So Edward says, okay, I'm gonna go with you. So Edward goes with her to the store and basically tells the store manager, I am rich as fuck, and I'm gonna need you to be waiting on hand and knee for us right now. And they do, so Vivian gets treated nicely because all people care about is your social class. At the end of this shopping spree, though, Vivian goes back to that first clothing store that she was kicked out of the day previously, and she asks the sales, like, worker if she recognizes her. She's like, no, and she's like, oh, I was here yesterday and you kicked me out. And then she delivers the most iconic line where she goes, big mistake. Big, huge. Next, we see Edward at work, where he's kind of coming to the realization that he doesn't build anything and he doesn't make anything. All he does is, like, take companies and pull them apart for profit, and that's starting to get to him here. So he's having a little bit of a realization of how evil he is as a businessman. The next event that Edward takes Vivian to is a polo game, which is an insane sport, by the way. The fact that they're all on horses. And also during the game, like, when they, like, swing at the ball or whatever happens in polo, it, like, creates dents in the field. So they have all of the audience members run out onto the field at one point and stomp the, like, pieces of grass and dirt back in, and they call it stomping of the divots. And that is such a weird thing to happen in a sport. Can you imagine if, like, at a baseball game everyone ran on the field and, like, smoothed out the dirt? So at the polo game, Phil, Edward's lawyer, approaches him and accuses Vivian of being a corporate spy for the people they're trying to buy the company off of. And Edward's obviously like, no, she isn't, but Phil won't let it go, so Edward finally tells Phil that Vivian is a prostitute. Because of this, and because Phil is a sleazy dirtbag, he approaches Vivian and tries to come on to her. Because of this, Edward and Vivian get into this huge fight, and Vivian decides that she wants to leave. So she goes off to the elevator, and right as she's about to go down, Edward comes out and apologizes. And the apology Edward gave seemed very genuine, and like he was actually showing genuine feelings for Vivian and like caring about how she felt. After this, kind of to make up for the fight, Edward takes Vivian to the opera. I've never been to the opera, but the way it's portrayed in movies is making me want to go, to be so real. Because Edward takes Vivian to the opera and tells her like how great it is, and she gets really emotionally connected to the story and ends up crying, and she loved it. And I want to experience that. Is it actually like that, or is it just boring? The next day, Vivian asks Edward to take the day off work, which is something he normally doesn't do. He's like, me not work? Which reminds me of this clip from Curtis Connor.
Me not work hard?
Me not
worky hard?
But anyways, he agrees to take the day off work and he spends it with Vivian. After they spend the whole day together and it's romantic and they start bonding more, we see them back at the hotel room and Edward is asleep on the bed and Vivian like comes up and like kisses him like on the mouth, which he's okay with it in the movie and like it goes well, but that was a boundary that was set in your relationship from both sides that should not have been crossed without explicit consent, Vivian. As we're reaching the end of their 6 days together, Edward is talking about going back to New York after this, and he says, Vivian, like, I want to see you again. I can give you like an apartment and a car here and support you financially, and I'll visit you when I'm back. And Vivian does not like this because he's treating her not like a full human being that they want to be in a relationship with. And she tells him that she doesn't want that. She wants like the fairy tale. She wants the knight who's going to come and save her and be with her. As Edward's walking away, he tells Vivian, I never treated you like a prostitute. And Vivian responds, you just did. So next we see Kit visiting Vivian and they're talking about the whole situation. And Vivian's saying like, it doesn't work out for people like us. Like, it's not going to work out for me. And she asks Kit, who has it worked out for? Name like one person like us who this whole like fairy tale romance has worked out for. And Kit responds, Cinderfucking-rella. Edward finally has his big meeting with the owner of the business he's trying to buy. And in the middle of the meeting, he kicks everyone else out of the room, including his lawyer, and he talks to this owner one-on-one, and they decide that Edward doesn't want to just be selling companies off for profit anymore. He wants to be working with these companies and building something and doing something. So he's no longer in liquidation, but he's still very much a capitalist, and I will hold that against him. Obviously, Phil is very upset with this as Edward's lawyer, and because he is insanely money hungry and greedy, and Phil decides the best way to take this anger out is to go to Edward's hotel room and try to sexually assault Vivian, and it's really uncomfortable, and I hate Phil. But luckily, Edward does show up and rips Phil off of Vivian before anything too bad can happen and kicks him out and is like, I'm done with you. I'm never speaking to you again. Their 6 days are finally over, so Vivian does leave and is talking to Kit about starting a new life in San Francisco. But before she's able to move to San Francisco, we see Edward pull up outside of her apartment in a white limo, just like the knight in shining armor she had always been hoping for. And they have their fairy tale moment where he climbs up the fire escape to meet her despite being afraid of heights. And it's romantic, and then it's a slow zoom out to show the whole like city block, and that's the end of the movie. So now I want to talk about some of the fashion in the movie. Here I'm styling my Edward look that I put together in 1 minute, but the fashion in the movie is much better than this, I assure you. The first outfit I want to talk about is what we first see Vivian in, which is this like short blonde bob wig with bangs and this like crazy like one piece thing going on with like a jacket. Oh, and I almost forgot, she also has like this whack ass hat on with it. And I'm gonna be so real, this is one of Vivian's flop outfits. Unfortunately, I do not like it, and it is a crazy outfit to be wearing to work as a sex worker. Next, I want to talk about Vivian's shopping fit the first day when she gets kicked out of the store. It's the same clothes as her first outfit from the movie, but it looks better because it has her natural hair, the red hair, and also the jacket's like around her waist, and she doesn't have that god-awful hat on, and I actually like the way the outfit looks when it's styled in this way. Next, I want to talk about the cocktail dress that Vivian bought. It's this beautiful black lace dress, and I love the fabric, and I love the cut and the neckline of it. I'm not sure how I feel about the neck detailing that's going on, but I think that overall it's a really nice outfit. The outfit that Vivian wears after going shopping for the second time with Edward, and the one that she's wearing in the scene where she says, "Big mistake, huge," is cunty as hell. I don't know what this style like of dress is or what it's like going for, but she's pulling it off and she looks cunty. Now for the polo scene, she's wearing this pretty like brown with white polka dots dress and this little like polo hat with matching like white flats. And I'm not the biggest fan of the color brown in general, but I think it really works with this outfit, and I love how the hat ties in the same color scheme, and it's just a very nice outfit again. And I almost forgot to mention the gloves that go with this outfit. There's several outfits in this movie where Vivian is rocking a nice glove moment, and I appreciate that. I think we need to start fucking up some more just like white gloves, like either the ones that go up to like here-ish or like even the longer ones up to like here when you're wearing like a dress. One outfit that I wanted to bring up, not in a praising manner, is Phil's outfit for polo, because he's wearing like this gray suit jacket over like this tight black shirt with some like black sunglasses on, and like I guess objectively that's not like a bad outfit, but he looks like such a douchebag in it, you know, and just like knowing his character makes it even worse. So fuck you, Phil. Okay, next is probably like one of my favorite outfits in the whole movie, and it's the opera outfit that Vivian wears, and she's wearing this beautiful bright red gown with this like great plunging neckline with like an off the shoulder sleeve moment, and then she's wearing the white gloves that go up to like here-ish, and she has her hair in this updo, and then Edward gives her this beautiful like red heart necklace that has like little hearts made out of like a red gem in the middle and then like diamonds around it, and it's just so beautiful and classic. The final outfit I want to talk about is also Vivian's outfit. She's like the main style icon in this entire movie, to be so real, and it's when she's talking to Kit close to the end, and she's wearing this like burnt orange almost blazer over a white button-up shirt with these like the same color burnt orange dress shorts, and it's so good. I've been saying this, okay? Not just this movie, I've been saying this. We need to bring back a dress short. Like, it's the same as dress pants, but it's just like they stop right above the knee. And it's so like cute and cunty, and it's so good for like summer because you don't want to be sweating your ass off. And Julia Roberts really does pull off those like bright reds and burnt oranges so well, and her styling throughout the entire movie is just impeccable. Now I want to talk about something that most people might not be aware of, which is that Pretty Woman has quite a few parallels to The Princess Diaries. The two films were actually directed by the same director, Gary Marshall, and also starred several of the same cast members. For example, the hotel manager in Pretty Woman is the same actor who plays Joe in The Princess Diaries. Also in Pretty Woman, there's a pretty minor character. One of the front desk ladies is the same girl who plays Charlotte, the Queen's assistant in The Princess Diaries. The store's sales associate from the second like shopping spree that Vivian went on is Paulo from The Princess Diaries. And one that I actually didn't know until looking it up, the elevator attendant in Pretty Woman is Mr. Robitussin from The Princess Diaries, her like neighbor. And there is one more actor who is in both movies, and it is the like waiter at the dinner scene. And in Pretty Woman, Vivian like flings like a snail shell or something because she doesn't know how to eat snail. And he catches it and says, "It happens all the time." And if you've seen The Princess Diaries, that same guy is in it at the like dinner scene, and he's also playing a waiter. And Princess Mia, I forget what she does, but she does something like that where she like tosses something and he catches it and says, "It happens all the time." And they also do that in The Princess Diaries too, but it's just like a fun little parallel. Genuinely, I think this is like a really good rom-com. The main characters have a lot of chemistry, and they do very well showing like the sensuality of that without it feeling gratuitous or over the top or uncomfortably sexual. And honestly, there's just so much chemistry between the actors. The way that Edward looks at Vivian at several points like had me gagged. There's this one point where Edward calls Vivian on the phone in his hotel room and says, "Don't pick up the phone." And she's like, "Then stop calling me." And then he calls again and she picks it up and he's like, "I told you not to pick up the phone." And it's just like this playful like flirtation that's going on that I think really builds their attraction to each other really well and makes you like feel the relationship. And I already talked about the piano scene a little bit, but I want to talk about even more because it's just such a good scene. It's sensual and romantic and it's done really well. There's little to no like dialogue happening or even sound really. It's a very quiet scene and it's focusing a lot on the movement and kind of the chemistry that you can almost feel between them. Now, I can never watch a movie without analyzing the social issues and those aspects of it. So I'm going to start by saying that clearly Edward's position as a CEO of this liquidation company is not great, and he's not a great person, and by the end he's still like a capitalist CEO who's definitely exploiting workers down the line. And I just like to keep that in mind. I still love the movie, to be so real, and Edward's still a fun character because he's fictional, but it is important, to me at least, to keep that in the back of my mind and not forget it. Also, it is a very straight white rom-com. There's no discussion of like queerness or queer identities, and there's, I'm pretty sure, no discussion of race throughout it. And that's also just something you need to keep in mind, that this isn't like the best portrayal for queer issues or racial dynamics, and that those things, if you are looking for them, you're going to want to be looking in other places. Perhaps one of the most interesting societal issues that this raises that I've been looking into is its portrayal of sex workers. So clearly, Vivian and her friend Kit are both sex workers working on the streets of Los Angeles in the 90s. And I personally feel like the movie never like demonizes them in any way or questions their choices or implies that they need to like not be doing that or that it's like a bad line of work. But I'm not a sex worker, so I wanted to do some research and see how other people felt about the movie. Now, I do want to say that Julia Roberts apparently did spend some time with some sex workers in the Los Angeles area in preparation for this film. And I did see online that some sex workers feel that it is like a romanticization and an unrealistic portrayal, and that it implies that like there's going to be some man that comes and saves you from sex work. And I feel like that it's a valid point to have, and it's a valid perspective to have. But I also agree with a lot of the opinions that I found online from sex workers that this is just a fantasy, and it can honestly be like a nice reprieve from how sex workers are usually portrayed in the media, which is very negative and belittling and demeaning. And one article I read said that it might actually have been preferable to the grittier, victimizing representations that took their place as anti-sex trafficking fear-mongering took over prohibitionist rhetoric in the 21st century. And speaking on that point, from my research, I saw that a lot of pushback on the film were actually from prohibitionists, people who want to outright like ban sex work because they thought it glamorized sex work and would encourage sex workers and sex trafficking, and that they only wanted to show sex workers as like criminals and victims and push that agenda that this is like a horrible industry that's ruining people's lives. And obviously I think that perspective is incorrect. I am all for sex workers and people doing what they want with their body and what they want as a profession. So overall, I would say, yes, it is an unrealistic portrayal of sex work, and it is fantasy, but I wouldn't say it's a harmful portrayal of sex workers. But yeah, with that, I think that is all I have to say on Pretty Woman. We covered a little bit of background, some of the characters, the main plot, some of the fashion choices, the parallels with Princess Diaries, and some social issues raised in the film. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching it. If you could leave a like and subscribe to this channel, it would really mean a lot to me. And if you want to comment down below what you think of this movie, any suggestions coming up, anything really, that'd be great. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.